Alright, so today is going to be story time about how I got wrecked on eBay. The card that caused all that was this right here. It's a Liliana the Veil Ultimate Masters Box Topper Edition. So this started about a year and a half ago. That's when I bought this, and I think this was the very first box topper Liliana I had bought. So I didn't really have any idea of, I hadn't had one before, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. But so I bought it. I put it into one of these acrylic. This one's BCW, but everybody makes one basically. It's magnetic. You just put it in here. So I put it in one of these cases and then actually threw it on the shelf that's kind of behind me. And there's a window on this side of the room, so kind of behind this camera here. And sun would hit it, in the evenings and stuff. And so the idea that a card being out in the open, these are supposed to be UV blockers, but the idea that something could be sun damaged was kind of in the back of my mind. And I had other cards back on the same shelf, like right next to this Liliana as well. So I kind of had it as like this display piece basically. And so I bought a couple of others, like over the course of the last year and a half. One of them was right here, this one that I sent in for grading. And when I would buy these new Lilianas, I, would just stick them in sleeves and put them in the binder or wherever. And this one, the original one that I bought, was just always sitting there on the shelf. So I never had them like right next to each other. And when I was going through cards to grade a few months ago, back when I got this one graded, I was looking at this one and comparing them right next to each other. I'll let you guys have a look. You can see a bit of a color difference. That's the biggest thing. And when I first saw that, I thought, wow, did this get sun damaged? Because that idea was sort of in the back of my head when I very first put this on the shelf, that can get sunlight like directly on it. So that was sort of, that's what I thought happened. I just assumed that this was in the sun for a bit too long and just got darkened. And I had other cards that were sitting like right by it, and they all look the same though, so I thought, I don't know, maybe it's something with these box toppers that had a different coating or something on them. So I almost sent it in anyway, but something just felt off about it. Yeah, I had this one plus a couple others, but this one just looked different. It looked like a normal card and everything. So anyway, I sent this one in. It came back and everything. And then I just stuck this one back in the binder. And then a few weeks ago, I've been thinking about doing a video about foiling and the different ways that Magic does foiling. And one thing I had always liked about these box toppers was, if you look at this Liliana, you can see like how, like her belt is foiled, the little thing on her chest there, the headpiece, the color thing. Some of the background, but not all of it. The text box is not foiled at all. Like the body in general is not foiled. And this is like something I really like. I hate when Magic just foils the entire surface of the card, including the text box and the subject of the art. I just think that's a really bad way of doing it. And so that's one thing I really like about these, is how it's foiled in a very thoughtful way that like makes the art pop a little bit more. And so that was kind of a topic on my mind, and then I was looking at this in my binder, and I thought, wait a second, this text box is foiled. And that was one of the good things about the box toppers, is it's not foiled, so the sun wouldn't create foiling. So then I started to really question what this card was. I thought, maybe because there's foiling across the entire surface, and so that's kind of like how some Magic foils are. I've got an example here. So like here's a perfect example. So this is Professor Onyx from Strixhaven, and this is a non-foil version, and this here's the foil version, and like this kind of demonstrates the point of foiling the whole surface. But you can see how much darker this art is than the non-foil version. Like this version just looks way better than the foil version, and it's foiled across the entire surface. And so it really just looks like this was a box topper that had the foiling across the entire surface. So then I started researching Ultimate Masters foiling processes, thinking, I don't know, maybe they printed some of them differently. But that's when I came across this website. So I came across this website here. It's mtgproxies.biz. Here's just the homepage. And if you go down here to cards by category, and then we can go down to Planeswalker. So this site here was one of the very first things that popped up when I searched Ultimate Masters foiling. And so here you can see a lot of the Planeswalker proxies that they're making. I'll just kind of quickly scroll through here. You can just kind of get a glimpse of the types of cards available. You got here like Mythic Editions. Here's a War of the Spark alternate art. There's another Mythic Edition. Here's a World Wake foil Jace. They got it labeled as Zendikar here, but here's some different versions. Mythic Edition again. Here's another War of the Spark alternate art. More Mythic Editions. Well, I'm already down here now, so there exactly is what now I was thinking that I had bought. And then here's, of course, Liliana Dreadhorde General for More of the Spark. And if you watch my video that went over the top 30 most expensive Planeswalkers, you're going to see a whole lot that are on this list. Or here, on this website, you'll find many from that list. There's another one right there. And so, just talking about proxies in general real quick, I'm not a huge fan of proxies in general, just like as a concept. I mean, really the business of it just doesn't work. Like, if Wizards spends all this money developing the design of a card and the art and everything, and then every spoiler season they put that out on the market in terms of spoiler season, if everybody went and got proxies on their own or printed them themselves, there's no money to be made there. Like, that business just doesn't work. And so, I mean, I understand people who are fans of proxies and are okay with them. I guess what I would say is if you are one of those people, you should be glad that people like me exist. Because if everybody did that, Magic would kind of cease to be developed in the future just because the business would no longer make any sense. So, I mean, if you are someone who enjoys proxies, I don't know, not try to talk everybody into seeing it the same way. It's really only works as long as not very many people are doing that. So that's just sort of a side topic. This isn't really about proxies here, but the thing with proxies usually is that the artwork is a little bit different, or maybe the card back is different, or something like that. And they're not like always trying to be indistinguishable from the real cards. And that's where we have a problem here, is these cards they're identical in terms of art and style and everything to the real thing. The card backs are the same. I'll show you that here in a second. And then if we go up here to the top, you can actually see where they're sort of advertising now that they have some recessed holograms. And, so they're trying very hard to make these indistinguishable from the real thing. And that now gets into the category of just being a counterfeit. And, it's a proxy website, but making a counterfeit and then selling it as a counterfeit, telling people that it's a counterfeit, doesn't make it not a counterfeit. Because, these can then get onto the open market and, be sold as the real thing. Because they're trying as much as technically possible to make them indistinguishable from the real thing. And another point I want to make, if we scroll down to say this Chandra Fire artisan from War of the Spark, alternate art, Japanese. Like, this is a card that no one's buying for play. Fire Artisan does see a tiny bit of play, but the Japanese version, I mean, non-English speakers do play Magic, of course, but most of the market is going to be in the English-speaking market. And so selling proxies of Japanese alternate arts, especially when you come down here to the Liliana, the most expensive planeswalker in all of Magic right now at a couple thousand. These aren't the types of cards that are really being played by a lot of people, and that's sort of a lot of the reasoning for doing proxies is to make, you know, building your decks cheaper for like casual Magic and such. But these are cards that are highly collectible and highly valuable, and just the card choice here is a little bit questionable in terms of which ones they're choosing to make proxies of. Okay, and so now coming back here to the actual card here, I actually ordered another one from that website, so it was $7.50. Got that one right here, and you can see the exact same sort of distinctive darker coloring, foiling across the entire surface. This one's holo stamp does look better, but the this one in general, this is the second one I bought. It's a little bit more less sharp, I would say, so it doesn't look as good. Like I said, I'd show you guys the back. They're both meant to be, you know, look like exactly like a Magic card. I looked at the font and everything. Like, all these things look very good. Really, this one, the holo stamp, is a little bit kind of goofy looking if you kind of got in and looked at it close. But the quality overall is very good. It kind of has a slick feel a little bit, but it's not really much different than other full foil cards that I felt. And that's not even talking about the new Step Incomplete ones from Phyrexia. Just other older foils kind of have that same sort of feel. So that's not really something that, you know, was immediately a signal that it was fake. Sometimes with the foiling, like I've seen in some videos, you can, like, if you get in real close, you can see a little bit of like a raised part of the edge. I could see maybe a tiny bit on this on the back only. And really I could feel it more than actually see it. It was so minor that a normal person wouldn't have actually even noticed that. And like a card like this that's kind of expensive, you know, you're going to get it and you're going to probably immediately pop it into a sleeve. And you're not going to be feeling the surface of it. I don't know, if you're not like super paying attention to the foiling, you might not notice that this is entirely foiled, or versus only select parts being. If this is like the only card that you've bought of this type, you're not going to know what's supposed to be normal for it or what sort of coloring is normal. And so, you know, cards like this, they're very easy for people to, you know, fall for. And I bought this on eBay for $225, and I found the listing from like a year and a half ago, and of course I click on the seller, and the seller, their account has been deactivated. So I don't know if, you know, they knowingly sold a fake card as the real thing, or maybe they bought it and thought it was real and sold it, but given that their account is deactivated, either they did it multiple times and people started reporting them. Like I said, I had this on the shelf for like over a year, so I just didn't ever have another thing to compare it to really even notice. So it was so far past the point when I could really do anything about it before I actually even noticed. So I know a little bit more about what to look for, but I mean, even saying that, if you buy a kind of a fancy new like alternate art foil type thing, if you don't already have another one to compare it to, you may not be able to know, you know, what looks wrong. So just me saying be careful doesn't really give you any real solutions, but you just have to really be careful with look at the seller's feedback. I have no idea what their feedback would have been back when I bought this. That information's long gone. And it does give you, you know, there's some added benefit to like a graded card because that does get authenticated. Anyway, guys, I hope you were able to take something useful from this. When dealing with these sort of more expensive collectible Magic cards, you just have to be careful. For counterfeits like this, really, the only good thing to do to them is just give them a nice little rip. Leave no survivors.